All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Whether you are joining us live or joining us in a later time, we appreciate you being here. I am excited to talk to you all today about job and internship search strategies. Before we do get started, I do want to note that internships here at IUP are on a decentralized structure, which means that internships go through the academic departments. So in order to make sure that all academic agreements for internships are appropriate and meet the criteria, it's important to go through your academic advisor for those internship agreements specifically. To break down what we're going to go over today, I'm going to introduce who the Career and Professional Development Center is and how we can help you. We'll talk about some online search platforms and how to navigate those. We'll talk about career fair opportunities and how to navigate all of the networking within those networking opportunities. We're really going to talk about IUP alumni and how we can utilize them as a search option and be able to reach out to them for guidance in the future. We'll talk about some informational interviewing and how to structure that. We'll provide some general tips for job and internship searches, and then we will conclude with how the Career and Professional Development Center can further help you. So to give you an idea of who I am, my name is Paige, and I am the mock interview and etiquette dinner coordinator here at the Career and Professional Development Center, and I'm also a graduate student here at IUP. The Career and Professional Development Center is basically here to help guide all students for their professional and personal career paths and growth. On the screen here, you will see our mission and vision, but I'm not going to bore you by reading it. But I do want to emphasize that the IUP Career Center is really here to help students develop those professional goals, identify some action plans on how to achieve those goals, and really work with you to develop those skills to ensure you can find a career path that fits your interests and your skill set. At the end of the presentation, I will go over a little bit in detail on how the Career Center can fully help you throughout your time here at IUP. So when we talk about job and internship strategies and searching, one of the main platforms to search for positions is through online search platforms. Now, these look like a wide variety of things. There are multiple platforms out there, and we'll break up some of those general sites and a little more specific based on your career path later in this presentation. As you start to sign on to these online search platforms, it's very important to utilize these to the best of your advantage. So you can do this by utilizing the advanced search options. Before you start searching for positions, you are able to put in specific options that you're looking for. So maybe you are bound geographically and you want to stay in Western Pennsylvania, then you can put that criteria in there. Or maybe you're interested to going somewhere else, maybe across the country to California. You can definitely put that in there as well. But those options will allow you to find things that are more specifically based on what your criteria or what your interest level is. So as you start to utilize these platforms, make sure that you're looking into what advanced search options you can complete to ensure you're making or receiving the best options for you. There are options to sign up for posting alerts. So once you put in that criteria, you can set up notifications where the job search platform will actually email you or text you every time a new posting that meets your criteria goes posted onto the website. So this is a really great way to stay up to date, to make sure you're seeing everything firsthand, and also so that you get a reminder every time that a new posting that meets your criteria gets posted. Sometimes with both job and internship searches, there are other things to keep in mind or other things that are on our minds, such as academics, co-curricular activities, and positions that you might be working at, a wide variety of things. So sometimes it's difficult to remember to keep searching for jobs and internships, or sometimes it kind of gets pushed off to the back burner. So signing up for those posting alerts are very helpful because it reminds you that that's something that you need to be doing, and here are some positions that you might be interested in. As we start to break up these online search platforms, it is important to be open-minded and to try a wide variety of websites. There are a lot of general websites as well as more specific ones for something that you might be interested in, but it's important to note that sometimes employers only post to one specific site or multiple sites. You truly never know. That's why it's so important to not limit your job search. You want to make sure you are looking at all of these different platforms, seeing which ones you like the best, and making sure you're going through those postings to see what is out there. Something to be mindful of as well is that sometimes companies will utilize their HR websites. So they might only post on their website because they want applicants who are actively seeking out their company and seeing what their company has to offer. So if you do have a company in mind that you would love to work at, then I would always recommend bookmarking that in your web browser, their company website, and going there often to check out their HR company or their HR site and those postings that are being updated. That's a great way to have your eye on one employer who you might be interested in working with in the future. So as you start to prepare your documents, your resume and cover letter, any documents that the application is requiring, it's important to identify key term words that are in the job description that you can then put on your resume and cover letter. So typically on the job description, it has all of the roles and responsibilities that the individual in this role will be completing. So with that, it is important to be mindful of what skills this individual needs and will be utilizing so that you can then tailor your resume and cover letter to that position. I never recommend just making one resume and sending it out to a ton of different positions because you want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward by tailoring your resume and cover letter to that job description and to that posting. So if there are specific skills on there that are listed on the job posting, such as time management, delegation, communication, then you want to make sure you somehow fit that into your resume and cover letter by demonstrating how you've used those skills in the past. Now, we never recommend lying on your resume. If you have never delegated work in your past experiences, then do not lie about it on your resume. However, find ways to be creative of how in your past experience with internships or on-campus or off-campus work experience, maybe within your co-curricular involvement, some ways that you have utilized those skills, and you can advertise that on your resume and cover letter to best fit that job description. So on this slide, there are a few different search engines that we recommend checking out. These are some more of the broad search engines that are typical for employers to utilize, but these are where majority of employers post. So these are just the general, broad, a lot of positions are posted on here. So because of that, we recommend utilizing those advanced search options to make sure you're removing any options that you might not be qualified for or you may not be interested in. So be sure to check out all of these. Sometimes there are some that you think might be easier to navigate. It's more of a personal preference. There might be some that just catch your eye a little more. I most definitely recommend College Recruiter because that one is specifically for college students and new graduates. So that would be a great one to check out. In addition, there are some search engines that are more tailored towards specific fields or specific majors, you could say. So within your realm, it is important to do your research to see if you are interested in English and writing. Maybe there's a specific job search engine out there that'll fit your interest. I always recommend going to any professors, academic advisors, or any mentors that you have in the field who would be able to provide some of this information for them. Maybe they've had great experience with one search engine, and that'll be a great outlet for you as well. So on here, we just have a few that we were able to find, some finance ones specific, maybe some renewable energy, some healthcare ones, the media, such as social media, advertising, some sales ones, but whether that's healthcare, technology, food, entertainment. We have some freelance opportunities as well. This one, CoolWorks, is very interesting. It's more for the outdoor enthusiast, but I'm sure there are very unique and diverse opportunities on there. And then if you're interested in working in the federal government. So again, these are just some examples, but I do recommend doing your research to see if there is a specific engine that is more tailored towards your interest and your field. So a platform that we utilize in our office and that I highly recommend is Handshake. Handshake is IUP's Career and Professional Development's way of having all of our employers into one central database. Every IUP student has an account for Handshake All you have to do is activate it with your 4 or 5 letter IUP email single sign-on. So you will go to iup.joinhandshake.com, sign into the platform, and from there it is very accessible and very easy to develop. Handshake is very similar to LinkedIn, where you'll have your own profile. You're able to upload a headshot, a professional headshot. You are able to put in your education and your skills and experiences, and you're even able to upload a resume if you are interested. Once your profile is developed, you're able to go through and check out all of the job postings, and we have job, internship, externship, full-time, part-time, whatever you may be interested in. Those are all posted right on Handshake. The really unique part about Handshake is that we have employers who are coming to us saying that they specifically want to hire IUP students. So this is a great way to start networking, see what opportunities are out there, and connect with employers. Something to be mindful of about Handshake is the more you develop your profile, the more traction the profile will get. So if you have a very well-developed profile, the odds of an employer actually seeing your profile and taking initiative to reach out to you would be a lot higher. So I always recommend students to sign on, develop their profile as much as possible, and then check out all of the postings and employers that are on there. So as you start to put out a ton of applications for either a job or an internship, sometimes it can be difficult to stay motivated because we have a lot of other things on our minds. And also, it could be difficult to stay organized as well. As you start to send out a lot of those materials, they might blend into one. So a way that we recommend staying motivated is to set goals for yourself. And this could look like anything, but with your goals, we always recommend making them as specific, realistic, and measurable as possible. So for an example, you might want to apply and submit at least 5 applications every 2 weeks. So here we have a quantity of 5 applications, so you can actually mark those down every time you do one, and we have a duration for 2 weeks. Hopefully that keeps you on top of it and keeps you motivated to keep moving on a weekly basis. A way that we recommend to stay organized is to create a document that will help you track all of your application materials, all of the companies, and who you've been in contact with. This is important because you want to make sure that you are sending out the correct cover letter with the correct company name on it, and you want to make sure you know who you are in contact with so that you can address that person appropriately and by the correct name. I like to make an Excel document where in there I log the name of the company, the person that I'm in contact with, the date that I submitted my application, and what materials were needed, and then if I've heard back from anything or what those future plans may look like. That's very helpful, so when you start to hear from employers, you can go back and see exactly what you submitted, what information you have told them, and what information you have heard. So a really great networking opportunity are career fairs. And within this next section of the presentation, we are going to talk through how to prepare for career fairs, what to expect, and then what to do afterwards. Career fairs are really awesome because that is an opportunity where we bring employers on campus to connect with our students. Typically, we have a career fair every semester, one in the fall and one in the spring, on campus at IUP. So it's really feasible for students to hop on over after classes or in between that class transition. So once you know about the career fair, how do you start to prepare? The first thing that I always recommend is researching the participants that'll be there. Something that's so valuable for students is actually doing their research. Once you start to connect with someone, if you know the history about the company, if you know anything that the company is currently doing about a current event or something new that they're initiating, that's a really great conversation starter, and it shows that you did your research. So always research who is attending and what the company is currently doing. It's always helpful to create a list of questions that you want to ask. That can be helpful as you start to meet employers. You might go through some small talk, you might give them what your elevator speech is, but through having a list of questions, that allows you to gain more information about the company, and it also shows that you did your research and you're taking initiative to learn more about that company. As you ask questions, it'll be clear to the employer that you're interested because you want to know that information that you're asking about. So it's always important to create those questions beforehand. I always recommend writing questions down. For me personally, if I don't write something down, I will never remember it. And sometimes networking events can be very stressful and add additional stressors. So with that additional stress, the odds of you remembering the questions that you prepared are very slim. So I always recommend bringing a professional notebook or Padfolio to write the list of questions down so that you can always ask them and not have to forget them just in case. First impressions are a huge deal within networking events, so it's so important to prepare a professional outfit. It only takes about 7 seconds for somebody to form a first impression about someone. So that's why that professional outfit, the handshake, the elevator speech, all of those things are so valuable for these networking events. And then, of course, if you have resume and business cards, it's always helpful to have those to hand them out, but make sure that they are up to date, make sure they have been revised by the Career Center so that we make sure all of the spelling mistakes, all of the structure, and everything is on point. As you start to connect with employers, it's important to also practice your elevator speech. So your elevator speech is about a 30-second to 60-second spiel about yourself, who you are, what you can bring to the table, and what you hope to do. So with that, as you start to prepare, I always recommend having something in your head that you can talk about for your elevator speech. It sounds silly, but every now and then I will actually practice my elevator speech in my bathroom in front of my mirror to get all of the kinks out. And I find that when I'm going to networking events or if I'm going on an interview, it really helps me feel more confident and more prepared about what I'm going to talk about. So don't be afraid to practice those things because those first impressions are so valuable. So while you're at the career fair, what do you do during the event? You walk in, there's employers everywhere, and it can be a little stressful. The first piece of advice that I have is to always seek out smaller companies. Sometimes you might be more impressed with the bigger companies because you know their name. You have heard their name, alumni might work there, so it's a bigger name. You might tend to go there as well. But I always recommend to seek out who those smaller companies are as well and make sure that you network with them. We bring a wide variety of employers to career fairs, and they bring unique opportunities such as job and internship opportunities. So don't be afraid to just see what's out there and make sure that you network with everyone. You never know who you're going to meet or what type of opportunity they may be able to give you. So seek out every company there so that you can ensure you are making the most out of your experience. As you go through the career fair, make sure that you stay positive and have an energetic attitude. And it's very important to be mindful of what you are talking about and who you are talking about when you are in that area. So within the career fair, typically we are in the arena at the KCAC with a ton of different booths for the employers, but the employers are all there. So if you go into the career fair with a friend and you talk to an employer, you go back to your friend and you say, I don't think I'm gonna work there. You never know who is around and who might hear that. So make sure that the second you walk into the arena at the KCAC or wherever you are attending a career fair, make sure that you have that positive attitude and you be appropriate and professional. Very, very important. And while you meet employers or network with others, make sure that you pay attention to your body language. Again, so some simple things such as a handshake, eye contact, and being present within the moment as you listen to the answers of those questions that you're asking are so important. Professionalism is being able to present yourself in a professional, appropriate manner. So with that handshake, make sure that it is not too tight, you're not squeezing too tight, but you're not also a loosey-goosey. Make sure that as you ask your questions, you are either taking notes or having eye contact with the person who is talking. You never ever want to ask a question, but then as they are giving the answer, you're looking around to see where your next person is that you're going to go talk to. Make sure that whenever you're talking to someone, you give them your full undivided attention so that you can make the most out of that experience and make a positive connection with them. After the event, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give is to follow up with anybody who you may have connected with. So as you connect with individuals, hopefully they will have business cards that they can give to you that will have their email, maybe even an address if you would like to send a handwritten note, but email nowadays is appropriate as well. But after the event, I typically recommend at least 24 hours afterwards, you always want to send a follow-up and thank you email. Within that thank you, it could be something generic like, "It was such a good time talking to you at the IUP Spring Career Fair yesterday," but you want to make sure that you include something that makes you stand out. Maybe you had a side conversation about how this individual got into the field and it resonated with you. Don't be afraid to include that and say, "It was such a pleasure getting to know all of this information and to learn more about you, about this specific information that you shared, and I appreciate that." Being able to set yourself apart within that thank you note is so important, because for employers and companies, they are talking to a lot of students. So within that thank you, you want to make sure you set yourself apart so they remember who you were. So in addition, there are other networking opportunities that you can most definitely take part in. Some of these just might be on-campus events, some that we hold at the Career and Professional Development Center, and there may be some throughout other departments as well, where they have an event, they might have a workshop, but then it's followed by networking. These events are so important. I can't stress enough how important networking is. As you start to attend these events, make sure that, similar to the career fair, you do your research beforehand. Typically, you should know who the employer or who the person is that you would be networking with at that event is. So you want to make sure you look them up, do research on the company, research on the employer, and really know who and what they're going to bring today. Again, it's always appropriate to ask questions. Typically, if somebody is going to come give a workshop presentation, they provide some time for questions afterwards. So don't be afraid to prepare questions so that you can ask some during that question and answer period. Or if it's helpful, you can always go and network with them afterwards, introduce yourself, give your elevator speech, and then ask those questions in a more individualized manner. And then, very similar to how you would after the career fair, make sure that you follow up after meeting someone. Sometimes that thank you, whether it's an email or a handwritten note, is so valuable because it just sets you apart. It shows that you are expressing your gratitude, and it shows that you are a young professional who is ready to emerge into the job field. So make sure that you follow up and express your gratitude to whoever you connect. So what's really great about IUP is we have such a huge, strong IUP alumni network. So don't be afraid to utilize these individuals while you start to search for jobs and internships. If there is an alumni who is at a company that you're interested in working at, don't be afraid to reach out to them and ask for an informational interview, which we'll talk about soon. But basically, an alumni network is a network of professionals who can offer career information or job advice. So it's so important to utilize our alumni network while you're here at IUP. If you're interested in connecting with IUP alumni, there are many ways that you can do so. One of the ways that I recommend is to utilize LinkedIn to connect with alumni. LinkedIn is very accessible and very feasible in terms of searching throughout that platform. So if you're interested in connecting with an IUP alumni, you just have to search within that criteria. You can put in specific education that you're looking for, maybe if they received the same bachelor degree that you did. You just want to make sure that you utilize LinkedIn to its fullest to get some of that alumni connections available. Before you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, it's always important to send them a message beforehand. You never just want to try and connect with someone without any contact beforehand. Sorry. LinkedIn is more professional than any other social media site, so it's important to utilize that to your advantage, but be professional and appropriate while on that site. So if you find an IUP alumni that you're interested in connecting with, make sure that you send them a message explaining who you are, let them know that you are an IUP student or a recent IUP graduate, and let them know why you're interested in connecting with them. Maybe it's because they have a similar educational background, maybe it's because they're in a company that you're interested in working at, or maybe because what they're currently doing right now in their role is very exciting for you and you just want to learn more. But always make sure that you put that in a message before just connecting with someone without saying anything. Make sure that you check out all of the events by the Alumni and Friends office. You never know if they're going to bring an alumni on campus who might be of a similar background or interest of you, and that's a great way to connect with them. And then, of course, it's always helpful to connect with an alumni and ask them for an informational interview. So let's break down what an informational interview is and what it looks like. Essentially, informational interviewing is talking to someone who works in a similar career path or job field that you might have interest in, and they can be of some sort of assistance to you, whether that's giving some job advice, whether it's talking more about what's in the field. They can provide some information that may be helpful for you in the future. So as you start to connect with either IUP alumni or other professionals that you're interested in having an informational interview with, make sure that you connect with them appropriately. You can always message them on LinkedIn. You can always send them a message via social media. That's perfectly okay and appropriate, but make sure that you are doing so professionally. You don't just want to try and follow someone, but maybe send them a message explaining who you are. Or if you're able to find their email, don't be afraid to send them an email explaining who you are and what you're interested in gaining from them. As you ask for an informational interview, you can ask for this to be either in person if you are local, maybe they are in Indiana while you're here at school. That's a great opportunity. If not, though, it is appropriate to ask for a phone call, a Skype call, or a Zoom call as well. Any of those video chatting softwares are appropriate. As you start to prepare for that informational interview, you want to make sure that you prepare your questions. On the screen here, you'll see a few questions that may be helpful, but of course you can ask anything that might be related to their position. It might be related to their transition into the work field, or it may be related to what their past experience was and how they ended up in this field. But of course, it's always very helpful to write down and prepare those questions beforehand, because the odds of you remembering them as you start to ask those questions and listen to what they're saying is very slim. And then as always, I can't stress this enough, it is always appropriate to send them a follow-up thank you, thanking them for their time, and then also updating them on your achievements. It's always very helpful to identify mentors in the program or mentors in a similar program or field that you are in that you can always reach out to and update them on your accomplishments and achievements. That's very helpful because it continues to build that connection between the two of you, and then you can always reach out to them if you ever need job advice or if you're ever just struggling with a difficult situation. They're always there to offer advice for you. So utilize your alumni network and utilize others in the fields that you might be helpful to you as you start to work towards this job and internship search. So as we start to kind of conclude, I wanted to wrap up with some broad tips for college graduates who are job searching or searching for an internship. One of the big things that I can't stress enough is be flexible. If you are only utilizing one online search platform, then it might be helpful to broaden your horizons by looking at a few different platforms or maybe broadening that advanced search option. Network extensively. One of the main ways to get a position or to be referred to a company is through who you know. So utilize your network, reach out to your career staff, reach out to the Alumni and Friends office, and see if there is anybody who would be beneficial for you to network with. While you're here at IUP, make sure that you're collecting references. Make sure that you leave a positive note with your professionals that you're connecting with in different departments, with your faculty and professors. That way, once you graduate or once you start to apply for internships, somebody or you have a network who is willing to speak on your behalf. I can't stress this one enough. Express your gratitude by saying thank you. Whenever you connect with someone in the field, whether it's at a networking event, through an interview, whatever that may look like, just let them know that you appreciate their time and that whatever they shared with you was valuable. The last tip, I think it's easier said than done. Don't panic. Everyone's job and internship search looks differently, so never compare yourselves to others. Just stay in your lane, check out whatever you need to, utilize the opportunities that you have, the network that you have, and of course, utilize the Career Center. Something that I do want to emphasize is that right now, for those who are job and internship searching, during this pandemic, it's going to look differently than it might have for peers who have already gone through this process. A lot of companies are now switching to virtual interviews, whether that is over the phone, through Zoom, through Skype. It could look like a wide variety of things, so be prepared for those. The Career Center is here to help you prepare, so make sure you utilize our resources to know how to navigate those platforms so that you can have your best foot forward during those virtual interviewing opportunities. Be patient and understanding. Know that a lot of companies are dealing with other things right now, and maybe they had a posting out there, but now that'll be on the back burner. Know that opportunities will come. They just might not come right this second. So be patient and understanding if a company is not ready to move forward with the job search hiring process. And I can't stress this enough. Hopefully this remote learning is becoming more normal, but continue as you normally would. Just because there is a pandemic should not stop you from searching for jobs and internships. If there is a posting on a general site or on a company site and you're interested in it, don't be afraid to apply. It cannot hurt. If they posted something, maybe that means that they're ready to move forward and start that hiring process. It just might look differently with virtual opportunities. But continue as normal as you would and try to still set those realistic goals of submitting either a job or internship application like you regularly would. I'd like to kind of conclude with this quote by Lao Tzu, who was a Chinese philosopher, and this just has resonated with me recently. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I think right now it's very difficult to continue with how things are, maybe with everything transitioning online with academics, missing out on some co-curricular activities. And I understand that. There's a lot of barriers that may be in the way. But in order to start that career path and start working towards your professional goals, I think one of the biggest things that you can do right now is to just start. Start researching, start collecting your documents, and reach out to the Career Center so that you can utilize us for all of the resources that we have to offer. Here is our team. We are a small but mighty team that we like to say, but we have a lot of individuals in our Career Center who are able to help you for whatever you need. I'll go over some of those specifics, but make sure that you utilize our website, check out who we have in our office and who may have the best interest for you. Something that I always like to highlight is our social media. We do a phenomenal job on social media of updating based on some professional development tips. We sometimes post about opportunities. Right now we're posting a lot about our virtual opportunities that we have for IUP students. So this is a great way to stay connected with the Career Center. I always tell students that it's always helpful to be lying in bed at 10 o'clock at night, scrolling through Twitter, and to be reminded by your professional development by your career services staff. So check us out on social media and stay up to date with what we are currently doing. So as I conclude, please make sure you stay in touch with our office. Up at the top, we have our generic email of career-development@iup.edu, so don't be afraid to send any emails there. If you are interested in getting your resume or cover letter reviewed, feel free to send that to resume-review@iup.edu. It typically takes about 5 business days for us to get back to you, but we will provide some feedback for you as you start to transition into this job and internship search process. On our website, iup.edu/career, we have a ton of great resources on there. We have a lot of great handouts as well that would be very helpful as you start to tailor your resume and cover letter. And then my contact information is down there at the bottom as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and it was such a pleasure getting to speak with you about job and internship search strategies.